Yes, welcome back, and in this episode we'll be doing lots of what I promised: painting, cooling systems, sprockets and more. So welcome back one and all, and all the new subscribers, thank you very much for subscribing. I hope you're enjoying what's going on. If you're watching this series, maybe you're watching something else entirely different, I don't know. But yeah, support is much appreciated, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so somewhere down here. And yes, encourage others to watch my lunacy, please, because once we've drained all this down and got rid of all the piping and everything else, we can get to those pesky exhaust pipes and see what a bastard they're going to be to get off. Yeah, I've ordered some yellow pipes. I'm not quite sure whether they'll fit, whether they're right. They're coming from, yes, good old China. So we'll see what happens when they arrive. If they arrive, they might turn out to be a piece of string. Yeah, so let's crack on with this. I think the simple thing is to put a bucket there and undo it at the lowest point. Wouldn't you say? Logical? Obviously taking that off to speed the process up, and I think that's probably going to end up yellow. Well, that worked to some degree. I've got a bucket full of, I don't know, red wine, looks like. Need another glass, so that's good. So then I disconnected the bottom right hand side and then the two hoses, marked them up left and right, and the overflow, and now moving around to the other side. So left it on the water pump down there, and it comes up here, so disconnected that from there, that's the pump end, and the top hose there. Now a question of what makes sense to disconnect fan wise. The connections down there, you can't see them very well and I can't get there with the camera, but they don't look very healthy, which maybe explain the fact there was a missing fuse for the fan, probably blew up, and yeah, it comes back up here into there, into a connector, so I shall probably disconnect it there and try and mark that up so I know what it is. Then normally you'd have to disconnect it from that, but it was never connected in the first place, and then it's just a question of a bolt here and a bolt the other side. Disconnected the fan, removed the bolt. So just as on the Augusta, this side is not a bolt, it just clips over there. So time for the radiator off. So that's in pretty good shape, at least functionality wise, and just needs a bit of a clean up, a bit of a paint job. Maybe yellow down the sides, maybe not, who knows. As with the rest of the rubber on this bike, the hoses are in pretty good condition. I say I've ordered some yellow ones. This boy goes back here and then disappears under there and under that flappy plastic cover. And so to the next fun part of this episode. Yes, I'm peering through the front forks at the exhaust manifold where it meets the block, and yes, so there's some horribly rusty bolts on that one, no bolts whatsoever on this one, which is why it's down there. One bolt on that one, Jesus, and yes, some more rusty ones on that one. I think it's time for some of that creepy oil. Stage 1 oiling complete with my favourite creepy oil. Yes, this one. Yep. And while, if you know me or you've been watching any of these videos, you'll know that Patience is not my middle name. It is the better part of Bala in this case. So I shall be oiling it again later tonight and maybe tomorrow morning, and I shall be resisting the temptation to try and crack those nuts off. Maybe. I've even oiled up the studs because you saw them, they're in a horrible state. So ideally I'll get them all out and replace them like I did on the Ducati. I think I have a few. I can always get some more. I'm going to need 8 this time, I guess. I think I've got 4 spare. So that's about it for this episode. Oh no, wait, no, that's about it for the exhaust pipe for the minute. And better find something else to do. Ah yes, footpegs. Cleaning. Love cleaning. Not. However, it is a necessary evil. Pre-painting, which I do enjoy. Thankfully, all that took was a little wipe down with a little degreasant. No, not that. That. And they're ready for the dishwasher. Yes, really, they're ready for the dishwasher. I use the dishwasher to clean parts. And I should also point out that no toothbrushes were harmed in the making of this movie this time around. It's alright, you can breathe easy. Santa is alive and well, and yes, stuff. And guess how much it cost? Yeah, 20 bucks each. Probably. Don't remember ordering any herbal remedies. I think it was motorcycle parts. That's more like it. Cap head, Allen hex bolt things for for the back wheel, for the brake disc, and special tool for clamping stuff. Or implements of torture. Nobody expects the special clamping stuff. You may have noticed there were two sizes. There's M8s, which were clearly identified, and not so clearly identified. No, keep out of reach of children. Yes, no harm of that here. Yes, M6, because when I looked up the required bolts for the rear wheel mounting the disc, everything seemed to be an M6, and I questioned my own measurement and my testing on my Christmas tree decoration, and everyone else is wrong and I'm right. Not quite sure why they're compartmentalised, because they're all exactly the same. Perhaps some don't get on with others, I don't know. Job done, lovely, and proper steel bolts. Funnily, the ones I found online specifically for this were titanium, which is a little bit over the top. These are definitely better than the other ones that just burred like buggery. Probably made out of tinfoil. At least the next guy that has to undo that won't have the same problems as me. I'll accept the thank you now. Good job I took that outside to paint, because I found these that I'd taken out last night and painted, and I left them out. And it was probably a good thing. They baked in the 100 and something degrees today outside, so they are good and solid and ready to go. Just guards, kind of shields, heat shields, whatever. So, onto the special tool, and I think the whole idea is it's just a jamming device. So there it is, adjusted. We're using that to fit the teeth on the sprocket, and I think the idea is that the tail end, just butts up against something, which as soon as I start turning it, hopefully it'll butt up against the kickstand, and the idea is that stops it turning. But I'm not going to do that tonight because I've had enough. So you'll have to wait till later, like me. So before I call it a day for today, another squirt of that creeping oil, easing oil on the exhaust, and indeed. And I'm headed for an early bath, which I won't be filming, unlike Ricky Gervais. Rear disc brake box, perfect for sending a 45 to somebody, if you even know what a 45 is. I guess you'd have to be 45 or over. Couldn't resist it. I love hazard stripes, and this is black and yellow, so that's where we're going. Apparently we're supposed to have this shit on the front forks or something reflective, so yeah, why not? Just in case you didn't believe me. I only had a little bit left, and I've painted these, so they look rather nice. Yes, pleased with them. Put them on the spares shelf. There we go. Not only primed, but also finished. Yes, I didn't actually prime. As always, if I don't like it yellow, I can paint over it, of course. And I also have another idea. Another recurring theme, potentially. I was going to put the back wheel on so I could take it off the jack without waiting for the wheel bearings to come in, but they're supposed to come in early next week, possibly. Anything up to Thursday, So I am again going to be out of character and just be a little patient and wait. I'm not going to be that patient though. I am going to just see if any of these will undo gently, obviously, because I don't want to rock the bike off its rather precarious stands. So again, I'm going to start with just a conventional 3/8 ratchet drive. See what it feels like. As you know, there's plenty of other weapons in the arsenal, just in case things get a little sticky. Well, that worked, as you can see, and the pipes are off, and the bike is still upright. So that's all good. And in the process, thankfully, some of the studs came out, because I want to get them all out. Still got 1, 2, 3, 4, and still got 5 to try and extract. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, and then these little boys fell out too, a little crush gasket, which Triumph use as well, actually, they're quite good. However, they're not all in there. And if it wasn't obvious at the time, initially, these guys have obviously sheared off at some point, which is why that one was just dangling in the breeze and not connected whatsoever. So they're going to be fun to get off. Not really looking forward to this at all. So there's a lot of techniques out there to resolve this problem. Everything from 2 nuts to vice grips to heat, and even welding a nut on the end. I'm going to start with the vice grips, and if that doesn't get me anywhere, I'm going to try the 2 nut aspect. I like that. 2 nuts are always good. The vice grips just not gripping enough, no matter how tight, they're just spinning on the shaft. So those ones are too short to try the 2 nut route, which is a shame. I'm going to try it on this one though. Let's see what happens. I tried using the original nuts, but they were just a little bit too deep, honestly. You can see they're quite lengthy nuts. So I found 2 of these in my box of tricks. Yep, and that fits beautifully. Right thread, everything else, cleaned up the thread a bit. So put that halfway down the shaft there, and then I'm going to screw the other one on to meet it. There we go. And then you may have come across this method before to lock a nut with another nut. So I'm going to tighten them against each other. And I'm going to do that by holding the back nut holding the front nut in place while effectively unscrewing the back one so that it jams up against the one in the front. Now they're jammed up against each other, it's just a question of undoing the back one. And it should pull the bastard out of the block. Unfortunately, that didn't work. What was happening was that both bolts were coming off, both nuts were coming off, and when I managed to jam a wrench into that on the front one to lock it, and then the back one did seem to start pulling it out, and I got a little bit enthusiastic and sheared it off. Yeah, so now we've got 4 short ones and 1 long one. So I'm going to try that again over there. I'm just going to be a little bit more patient and gentle on that one at the back there. Well, none of that's working for me right now, so some more creepy oil on it and more hanging around waiting. Another method that is available to me is using those easy outs again, which involves drilling a hole into the bolt itself, a small hole because they're not very big bolts, and using that to unwind it. I'm not confident that's going to work just because they're pretty small bolts. Another alternative I thought of would be to cut in to provide like a flat blade slot, but a deep one, and get a flat blade in there, but they're so fragile. I think that's just going to shear as well. I don't know. I think the welding the nut on it is actually kind of the best idea, but guess what? I haven't got any welding equipment, and I don't really want to lug it all the way somewhere to someone who has. Well, the good news is that the radiator is finished, at least complete with hazard stripes. I guess it's time to clean these up, which means back to our old friend that we used on the Ducati. No, not red wine. Naval jelly, rust dissolver. Good starting point. And time for our old friend, the cleaning brush. Not seen since its last performance, which was thought to be its last performance, but yeah, it'll do the trick. The idea is that the jelly does the work, and this just kind of mushes it around a bit rather than physically cleaning. So, last test on the fuel tank, fuel pump situation. Taken that off because I can't get this at that angle. It's designed not to go as vertical as it is. In fact, it's beyond vertical. Because it has a safety catch on the mount that marries up with that. So, but I couldn't see the connections in there on what is supposed to be the pump. So I may be crazy, but I'm going to connect the battery up directly to it and just see if it does anything. This could be my last video. In fact, it won't be, because I won't be here to edit it. I know it's not insulating tape, but it's better than nothing, and I don't want that shorting out on the frame while I'm messing around on the fuel tank. Totally stupid. Well, no matter which way around, all I got was sparks, which was a little bit scary, and no pumping going on. Not even a hint of a buzz of a pump. Well, I know many of the more knowledgeable amongst my viewers are watching this going, is he stupid or nuts or what? I just figured if you hooked up the pump straight to the battery, nothing in the middle, it either worked or wouldn't, but clearly not the case because it sparked. At this point it's clearly above my pay grade at the moment, and I shall have to hand that problem over to my motorcycle elf, Derek, who is still AWOL, which is a bit disconcerting because he has my seat for the Ducati, which should be finished by now. So I'm going to divert my attention to this because I've worked out that we need a tray. I think I'm going to drill holes in those round bits and thread them so I can put a tray at the very bottom, neatly fitting inside that lip. Yeah, no fancy recycled office furniture, just a piece of sheet metal. By the way, if the pump wasn't totally bollocksed already, it probably is now. Right, as per usual, we are starting off with a cardboard template, a very thin piece of cardboard. So I've ruled out the outside edge, but of course it's going to go on that inside lip. So you need to take off that thickness there. Once I've cut it, and as always, ruler on the inside of your cut so you don't muller the bit you want left in case your knife goes astray. And do keep your fingers out of the way. I have sliced a big chunk of my finger off once with one of these. It's not painful because it's a very clean cut, but it bleeds like buggery. That was back in the days when cut and paste literally was cutting and pasting with cow gum and scalpels, and yeah. So now I need to shave off those lippage, the lippage, yeah, so that it fits inside. And I'm going to do that by eye. Well, actually, I've done it already, as you can see. Spot on. What I'm not sure what to do about is the rear end of this, because you'll see that inside edge creeps up level with the outside edge. And at what point do I want this piece of metal to stop? Because the battery is actually going to sit kind of here somewhere, so it needs some support. maybe I need to do a piece that comes back inside, maybe. So what I'm going to do first is put this corner right here. This, because of all the angles involved, is kind of hanging out there, so I'm going to mark this, cut that across here so that that's parallel with this, and then I'm going to start measuring stuff. Is this boring, or is this the kind of stuff you want to know about? Oh, I nearly forgot my navel jelly. Yeah, not overly impressed with this stuff, honestly. I put it on there and I rinsed it off, and yeah, it just all looks a bit shit, honestly. So I think I'm going to sand that down. That'll be another fun job to do. Love sanding. It's almost as good as cleaning. It's messier. Okay, so we have squareage on the back end. Maybe a shave more off on the right hand side, do you think? Possibly. That's better. A little bit of adjustment on which line represents where the hole is going to be, because I'm using the thumb method. Let me show you the thumb method. Well, it's basically you get your pen at the relevant point right there, and then you use your fingers to just keep that same distance. You arrive there too. How about that? Is that the rule of thumb? I don't know. What I'm really not looking forward to is drilling these out and then tapping them, because that is really tedious. If any of you saw the episode on the Augusta when I tapped out that hole, it takes forever by hand. And yeah, the alternative was to actually put a little bit of wood. Yes, wood. I've been looking at wood, and just fucking drilling some holes through the side here and just mounting it that way, which would have been a hell of a lot easier. But I don't know, they're crying out to be mounts, right? And there it is, all marked up on the sheet of metal, ready to cut, but not today. There, that's your insert. There, dip, raise, whatever. Anyway, that's where it needs to come inside and start coming up, so it fits between that outer edge where it's higher. Between rather than on. It's starting to look very sorry for itself. Maybe as am I. I knew this was going to be a big project, and there's a few things that get me down right now, honestly. The stupid exhaust bolts, stuff that I just, I know is going to be tedious. I was a little bit spoilt with the Ducati. It was a little bit easy in every direction, and I knew this was going to be a hole project. I could have done without the non-starting aspect, because it should have all just hooked up and fired up, and it didn't, and that's disappointing. Anyway, I don't think he'll take it back right now, so it's a bit late for whining, and just a question of getting on with it. And going back to the exhaust, I think this time around I'm going to use the black and just spray them black. I know we've already established that the heat resistant paint is only heat resistant to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, I think, which of course potentially, what's it, centigrade? I don't know, anyway, which is potentially not as hot as an exhaust pipe gets. I have the scars to prove it from the side pipes on my Corvette Stingray. But unlike gold, I'm not sure what colour black would go when it's heated up, because the paint didn't fall off, so it was heat resistant. It just changed colour on the Ducati. So I'm figuring black will just stay black, and if it doesn't, I don't know, we'll wrap it or something. you'll have to tune in again to find out. Once I've painted the exhaust, put everything back together again, got the fuel pump sorted out, got the bastard started again, and you'll find out whether black goes green or something when it's exposed to extreme heat. So, if you haven't already, subscribe now. And that'll be in a later episode, I promise. So the reason I'm accelerating this development, if that's the word for it, with the whole tray and everything else, is because I realise that the situation with the noodles is worse than the spaghetti. Yes, this is the most wiring I think I've ever had to deal with. It seems to be like 2 lots of injectors, whatever. Anyway, so the point is, I don't think I can relocate any of the stuff that comes backwards. And so I need to find out what will fit in that tray and what won't, get it kind of in place and work that out. Then I need to look at what I can put in that void there, if anything at all. Whatever I can bring forward, I will. I really want to bring the regulator, which is those big chunky wires, into that connector there. So if I can do that, that'll be good, because you know how much I love redirecting wiring and storage of stuff. By the way, if you tuned in because you thought this was a how-to channel, it's not. It's probably a how not to, but actually it's just the rantings of a lunatic trying to build some kind of cool bikes. So I'm going to cut this protrusion off because it's of no use anymore. 2 reasons: it gets in the way of my seat idea, and it means I can put this in the vise properly so that I can clamp it up and drill some nice holes and do all that tapping and stuff. Yep. Ended up cutting this piece with the angle grinder. Actually, it was easier than the jigsaw. It's quite soft, even though it's quite thick, so it was kind of buckling up and not playing ball. But yeah, that's a beautiful fit. I'm getting better at this. Now I need to mark up where to drill the holes, and then we have ourselves a seat mount. And I'm not sure what length I need at the back, so I've just given myself the maximum at the moment. Stage 2 complete. Drilled the holes in those support mechanism things, and I'm considering not tapping them and actually just using an appropriate metal screw to go in there. See if that holds up. Yep, that worked. Self-tapping screw. Not fully submerged, but there we go. Had to circumnavigate the suspension mount, the shock absorber there, so had a little bit of bending it like Beckham, and that seems to be coming along quite nicely. Wonder if the battery will fit. Funny enough, I used the battery, the old defunct 748 battery, to bend it. Nice kind of rounded edge there, just to hammer it over. Battery fits lovely. Not a lot of room for an ECU though. That old chestnut. So time for some more unraveling to find out what goes where and what needs to go where in the loom department. And all this stuff is rear lights. That's obviously an earth because it's feeding 3 into 1. Essentially all that is lighting for the rear, so I can probably chop it off here and worry about it later. Yeah, because that big fat boy's got to come in here somewhere. Can slot down the side of the battery to get to the ECU. The ECU can probably mount at an angle, so I can fit the battery 2 ways. It can either tuck over on the left or right, and it's a little over halfway if I do that, and then the full length of the tray. Or I have it as I showed you before, in which case it ends there. There you go. In which case it ends there. And there's room for the ECU at an angle. Oh, look, is that Mitsubishi? at an angle there, or yeah, there's plenty of room with the plug and the wiring. So that would kind of look like that from the back, which would mean I'd need an additional sheet there to protect that. That seems like as good a point as any to call it a day for this episode. Next time around I will have been doing a lot of exploration of wiring and hopefully have some news for you on what that all entails and where it's all going to go. So thanks for watching again, and if you haven't already, do subscribe. And yes, if you have friends that might be interested in my lunacy, please encourage them to watch. Until next time, stay well.